भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की jai.
Our neighbor, and we're going through a particularly bad patch in our relationship because they've taken a set of actions in violation of agreements for which they still don't have a credible explanation, and that appears to indicate some rethink.
Hi all, this is Sri Hari, and in today's video we are gonna see the string of pearls strategy adopted by China to encircle India in its trade route, and what is India doing to counter the same. So what is string of pearls? String of pearls is a strategy being used by China by building commercial ports and military bases in many countries. So this strategy has been deployed by China to protect its trade interests. Interestingly, 70% of the world's maritime oil trade route passes through the Indian Ocean. So having control over the Indian Ocean means you have 70% control of the oil trade route, world's oil trade route. So to understand this further, let's go through something called as the trade choke points. So you may wonder, what is a choke point? Well, a choke point is a place where if a country has control over it, it can basically choke the entire world trade supply. So there are mostly three important choke points: the Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Malacca, and Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. The other important choke points are the Mozambique Channel, Strait of Sunda, and Lombok Strait. If you look into India's neighbors, starting with Pakistan, China has spent millions building oil pipelines, ports, railway lines to build an alternative trade route around India. So it is creating a ring around India through strategically placed nations such as Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and other facilities. Further, under China's Belt and Road Initiative, it's building a strategically important railway line from China to London, and then another line from China to Iran, that is Iran. By doing this, China is constructing its own trade routes to become an economic superpower. In this process, China intends to surround its rivals like India and eventually gain military and economic advantage over the United States. So of course, when China is doing all these, India won't sit quietly and do nothing. The question that arises is, what is India doing to tackle this military and economic implication of China's strategy? Well, India has adopted the diamond of necklace strategy, whereby it encircles China. That is, in simple words, the counter encirclement strategy. India is expanding its naval bases, thus also improving relations with strategically placed countries to counter China's strategy. For those who have been saying the Prime Minister is wasting money by going on a world tour, well, below are the results for those people.
Now, after firming up India's position with Indonesia and Malaysia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Singapore in the last leg of his three-nation tour. And these are the visuals of the ceremonial welcome that the Prime Minister is receiving the second day of his trip to Singapore. And he
The big expectations are for both India and Oman from the Prime Minister's visit to the Sultanate.
So Oman has always been among our closest partners
in the Gulf.
India's strategic bases. So let's starting with Singapore. We have built the Changi Naval Base, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2018 signed an agreement with Singapore. This agreement has provided direct access to this base to the Indian Navy. That is, we have military access to this place. So while sailing through the South China Sea, the Indian Navy can refuel and also rearm its ship through this base. Next is the Sabang port in Indonesia. In 2018, India got military access to Sabang port, which is located, note this, at the entrance of Malacca Strait. So we also have placed our naval base near the Malacca Strait. That is, we have access to this port. So this strait is one of the world's most famous choke point. A large chunk of trade and crude oil passes on to China through this region. The next is Duqm port in Oman. In 2018, India got military access to this port. This is located in the southeastern seaboard of Oman. So this is where India's crude imports from the Persian Gulf goes through. In addition to this is another strategic decision taken by the Indian government. This Indian facility is located right between the two important Chinese pearls, Djibouti port in Africa and Gwadar port in Pakistan. Next is the Assumption Island in Seychelles. So in 2015, India and Seychelles agreed upon the development of the naval base in this region. So what does this mean? This gives military access to India in this region. So this base is also of strategic importance as China desperately wants to increase its presence in the African continent through the maritime Silk Route. So by building the Chabahar port in Iran, India has indirectly the control over the choke point of Strait of Hormuz, which connects the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman as seen in this picture. Apart from these naval bases, India has strategic cooperation with various countries, giving direct access to strategically placed naval bases, and also India is developing new and redeveloping the old bases. To start with Mongolia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit this country. Both the countries have agreed and will collaborate to develop a bilateral air corridor for which India has extended around 1 billion in credit line. Japan. India and Japan have jointly declared to build the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. India is also supplying BrahMos missile and patrol boats to Vietnam. Also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has developed relationship with the Central Asia and visited all 5 countries of Central Asia in one go, after which India's trade has doubled in this region. The Sabang port in Indonesia, where the Indian Naval has military access, is located at the entrance of the Malacca Strait. That means we have the control over this choke point, as the naval base is located at the entrance. Further, if you go down, we have the Changi base in Singapore, which is located at the entrance, or rather at the end of the Lombok Strait. This is also a strategically important base as we have military access to the Changi port. Although both the governments have not publicly claimed they are following the strategy, but as a common man we can all see they are doing the same. I hope by seeing this video you have gained some knowledge regarding how India is developing its international relationship with various countries to counter common problems to the world. If you have gained some knowledge by seeing this video, give us a thumbs up in our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and give a like to this video.